There we go. Hey, wow, the numbers are going up. Hey, as you're joining right now, do me a favor. Can you just drop in where you're calling from in the chat? Perfect. Arizona, Boston. Hey, do we have anybody from Ohio State, like Ohio, on this call? Sharon was telling me earlier today that he just loves the Ohio State Buckeyes. And, I just want to make sure we all give some love to Ohio State. Go blue. Oh, man, the same person from this morning is on the call. Go blue. Omaha, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Birmingham, Seattle. All right, good morning, everybody. We got the numbers going up. I'm just going to give it a minute here and let some more people come in. Phoenix, Cape Coral. Wait, so how did Ohio State do last year? Thought Michigan won the whole thing. Oh, Josh, what's up, man? They did, but last time I checked, they cheated their entire way through. Like this could be a conversation for another day. Hey, thank you everybody for joining. My name's Drew Thompson. I'm the head coach and head of Real Academy here at Real. All that means is my main focus is to give you the tips, tactics, and strategies so that you can succeed. So to kick off today, I've got Sharon waiting backstage. She's got some amazing stuff for you. Kick off today. I want to go through our game plan for our time together, if that's cool with you. So today we're going to be going over objection handling and talk tracks. I've got Sharon waiting. He's going to be talking about the 5 secrets to buyer consultations, the story you tell your clients versus what you tell yourself, which is super important, instant trust and rapport formula, and the exact words to handle objections. Can you guys do me a favor, just so I can get a temperature of everyone that's here? If you're ready to drink from a fire hose and take everything that we're talking about and then go implement it in your business, can you just put a yes in the chat real quick? Put a yes in the chat. I see one. Someone just put, let's go. I love it. All right, so here's where I want to start. I saw this earlier this morning as I was going through my deck. Trust is built and maintained by small actions over time. Those little actions that we do, the little things make a big difference, from greeting a possible buyer or a client to working with them throughout the transaction and keeping them updated every step of the way. Each one of these tiny things has an impact on how much they trust you. Now, I want to give you this as a bonus. It's my gift to you. It's our gift to you. If you stick around to the end, I've got something that I think you can go execute, because I want to give you tactics that is going to make such a huge difference in your business. So stick around to the end for that. And then I want to give this to Sharon, because I saw some of the stuff he's going to present to you today, and it is just bonkers. So let me stop sharing my screen. Sharon, can you jump on, man?
Yeah, man. Hey, Drew. Thank you so much for the great intro. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Super excited to be with you. First off, here's what I'd love to do. I wanna give Mr. Drew Thompson a super big kudos for doing such a great job of framing these conversations, coming up with, Drew ran our coffee chat this morning. We're excited to partner to bring you some really great ways in which you can manage and support your clients. But there's a magical talent that Drew has, and that is he shows up every time with helping us get better. So Drew, I appreciate you so much. Love to partner with you, man. Super cool. So here's what we're going to do. What I want to share is how many of you in the last 30 days have actually gone on a buyer consult? Just put a me in the chat. How many of you in the last 30 days have actually gone on a buyer consult in some way? All right. So a lot of you have, right? So what I want to kind of share with you is something interesting, and I want to share with you 5 secrets to winning every single buyer appointment. And I think that if you just implement these 5 things, I think it will dramatically help your business overall. And I'm going to kind of frame this as how do you get more appointments? How do you actually what to do in the appointment? That's the goal for today. All right. So as I kick this off, I want to share with you some wild things that are happening, and you probably are seeing some parts of these. So agents are kind of a little bit frazzled right now, and with the changes. So if you were not on yesterday for our workshop on the Real Buyer Playbook, you can get all the materials that we have completely made readily available to the entire industry at realbuyerplaybook.com. And it gives you the entire operating manual for surviving and thriving in the NAR world. But the agents are asking questions. And I want to offer you like, hey, how do I master getting the buyer agreement signed? Any tips before it's a choice? Or I will tell you this, hey, what are you most uncomfortable with the new buyer agency agreement? Like people are just concerned, and only because they have not done this in the past. So they're just a little concerned about this process. Or you're gonna start seeing something wild like this. An agent actually sent me this. She said, selling real estate is not hard and realtors are not valuable anymore. This is where agents are going. They're afraid. And so they're making these statements. In fact, the hate in some of my posts are off the charts. It says, hey, I'm a real estate agent and I've had my licenses for 2 years. It's not hard, but I'm a real estate photographer now. Like, really, dude? You couldn't cut it as an agent, so you're a photographer now? That's crazy. Hey, agents are parasites and it's time for them to go. You aren't worth a penny. You're no more useful than a cashier. This is what agents are saying about agents, right? And we have a chance to prove them wrong. We have a chance to say, hey, we are more skillful than what the industry assumes. And this is a really funny one, by the way. She says, hey, with the NAR ruling, am I correct in saying that even though sellers agree to pay a 6% commission, I can't share that with my buyer's agent? No, you can't, because cooperation compensation is gone. How can they tell me how to disperse my commission? Because it's not yours to disperse. That's what the new rule is. That's the interesting part about this. And instead, look at the post on the right. She's like, hey, instead of figuring out all this NAR crap, I'm just going to start applications for taking a sugar daddy. Like, she's gotten to the point where now it's getting funny, right, in this process. And I appreciate the humor, but we have to understand one big thing. And the one big thing is that when I go into a listing appointment, the raw goal of the listing appointment is to get the listing signed. That's the raw goal, right? So you can actually represent them. What is the goal in the buyer consultation? What is the goal in the buyer consultation, right? Like, I think the raw goal in the buyer consultation is to give them the entire process so that we can get the buyer agreement signed, right? That's important. So people always ask me this question, hey, Sharon, can you just give me the magic script? Is there a magic script associated with this in some way? And I want to show you something, right? So I have never met this lady. I believe her name is Lacey. And I think she's an online coach. She shared a bunch of ideas and someone sent me this video. She and I communicated on Instagram because I promoted her video a couple times. And the cool part is I want you to listen to, you may have heard this, I want you to listen to what she says in this video about this magic script. So let's see if you can connect with this.
How do you get your buyer representation agreement signed, sealed, and delivered? This is what I do. When I get to the end of my conversation, the very first conversation I have with a potential new client, I say this. I say, I only work with clients that are willing to work with me exclusively, and I earn 3% for my services. Input whatever yours is. It's not set. Later today, you're going to receive a copy of your personalized collection as well as my buyer representation agreement to sign. This outlines how my compensation is paid, my responsibilities as your agent, and allows me to legally advocate for you. Let me know if you have any questions. This is what your buyer rep needs to sound like. Say it as many times as you have to until it just rolls off the tongue.
So by the way, this is really good. I'm glad we have this at play. Just FYI on this one. Lacey did a really good job. So if you know Lacey, you should tell her that, hey, and you may not know Sharon, but he said that you did a really good job. So Lacey did a fantastic job. Now I want to frame this for you in a more important way. You're not going to be able to do this, right? There is no framing for you to actually ever say what Lacey just said because you have no context on what Lacey did prior and Lacey's going to do after. Right? You have no context. So if you think that you can memorize that magic script that Lacey shared, it will not help you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It will not help you. So please don't try to do that. Because what she's sharing is she's sharing the thoughtfulness of what you actually say. She's trying to wrap the thoughtfulness around, but you have no idea. Like if you say dumb things before, you can't say that. If you don't do anything after, you can't say that. And Drew and I can spend an hour just deconstructing what she just said in that video. But most importantly, I want to give you a couple of things very quickly. Number one, please eliminate the use of these three words: exclusive, loyal, and commit. Right? You don't walk into a listing appointment and say, ooh, we're going to sign an exclusive listing agreement. You don't do that. Then why would you walk into a buyer consult and say, we're going to sign an exclusive buyer agreement? You will never do that. You know why? Because you think in your mind that buyers are liars. You think in your mind that they're going to go work with someone else. You think in your mind that just because we've had an informal relationship in the past, they're going to continue to do that to you. That is not the case anymore. Wow. So when you use the word exclusive, when you use the word committing, and you use the word loyal, what it does, it drives sales resistance. Because here's the thing, when I say, oh, we only work with clients that are loyal to me, they don't know what that means. So please don't tell them that. They have no idea what that means. And that's the most important part about all of this. So you don't walk into a listing appointment and say, oh, I only work with sellers that work with me exclusively. You don't say that, because what that does, it drives sales resistance, right? You don't say, oh, I'm loyal to you, so you need to be loyal to me. You don't say that, because it drives sales resistance. Hey, I need you to commit to me so that I can commit to you. They don't understand what that means. So you don't say that, right? And so the interesting part is the exclusivity language drives sales resistance. You don't have to say that. That is assumed and understood in the contractual process. That is why you sign an agreement. That is why this has a representation-based approach. I want you to understand this, because we will go in and we will say, we will use dumb words that will drive sales resistance. And because of that, they will be closed and they won't have a chance to work with you thoughtfully. So please know that. That's super important. Now, what that means in this entire process is this: good process and good process alone drives good results. That's what you want to understand. So let me actually walk you through this. I went on 113 buyer consultations in 17 different states in the last 6 months, right? 117 different. Now the interesting part is several of you have done and mastered this process in one location, but I've done 113 in 17 different locations. And I want to kind of walk you through what I learned. I wrote down every single question that every single client asked us to every single appointment that I went on. All right, every single question. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's got to, so this is, I wrote down all the questions for every single appointment that I went on. And then I realized that there had to be a pattern of some sort, right? There had to be a pattern. If you realize every single question that every single client asked us, we had to be a pattern. And I will tell you that no one has mapped out this pattern, because I did. So here is the pattern. I'm going to show you the 10 most important questions that the buyers asked us, which I think will be beneficial to you, right? Here's the 10 questions. Now, you can take a screenshot of this. I'll give you all the slides. It may be hard to read, but let me read these out for you. But this is not the exact answer. So before you take a screenshot of this, let me give you the exact answer, right? Here are the questions. So number one, this is a capability question, which is, what qualifies you to help me buy a house? So when people say add value, they don't know what that means. These are the questions that are on people's minds. Number two, how does all of this stuff work anyway? Which is a complexity question. Number three is a result question. Do you really think we can find a home? Number four, hey, it feels like a needle in a haystack. Like, will I ever get what I want? That's an access question, because a buyer thinks they can only buy a home that has a sign in the yard. And we know that's not true. Number five is a proof question. Why does every agent claim that they are the best? There's a proof question, because everybody in your marketplace claims that you're the best. Number six is a process question. What the heck are you actually going to do? Number seven is a personalization question. Hey, we have very specific needs. You have a cookie cutter process. Can you actually help us with this? Number eight is the market question. Hey, the market feels super wonky right now. I'm just overwhelmed with the misinformation. Do I even have to pay a commission, right? Number nine is every buyer is thinking this, how do I know that I'm going to get a fair deal, which is a pricing question. And the last part of it is, a lot of agents say this, and the agents, you know what the agents say? They're like, well, I'm a great negotiator. Well, how do you prove to a client, how do you validate the claim that you are a great negotiator? I am going to validate to you that you suck. Now, I want you to prove to me that you don't. You know what you say? I'm a good business person. I make good business decisions. I'm a great negotiator. I negotiate for you. How do you prove that? That is a bold claim that you are a great negotiator, but you have no way to prove that you are a great negotiator. And that's why that's a black box. So when agents tell consumers that they are great negotiators, they don't believe you. In fact, they think you're BSing them. They think you just, you split the difference and meet people halfway. Yeah, 100% you would use case studies, etc. But think that every time we make a claim, we have to show proof. Right? That is the most important thing. So if you want to take a screenshot of this and you want to rebuild your buyer presentation, it should have at least these 10 components built into it. Otherwise, you're not answering the question that is on their mind. All right. Now, let me give you a few more quick examples. So there's 5 secrets to actually getting to buyer mastery and what you talk about in the appointment. Now, I'm not giving you all 10, but I'm going to give you 5 of the most important things in the next kind of 6 minutes. Here's the first one. Thank you. Here's the first one, and which is, let's ask this question. Is there a silver bullet? What is the magic script to getting the agreement signed? So if you believe that there's a magic script to getting the buyer agreement signed, please, if you believe there's one, put a yes in the chat. If you don't believe there's one, put a no in the chat. If you believe there's a magic script, put a yes in the chat. All right, please, I want everybody to look at the chat, right? There is no magic script. Now, I will fight you, head to head, toe to toe, pound for pound, that there is no magic script, right? Good process and good process alone drives good results. That's what the most important thing is, right? What if there was a magic script, I could tell you, and I would tell it to you. Now, I will tell you the easiest magic script for you to have. If you are a celebrity in the market, if you are a local market, kind of a digital mayor, if you're like my friend Stephanie Younger and you have 41% market share in your market, then you can do whatever you want. You walk into the marketplace and they already know who you are. And they're like, man, I would be at a competitive disadvantage if I don't work with Stephanie, right? That's how you win. That way, you don't even need a magic script. You just have insane brand to drive that result. So please, please, please know this. There is no magic script. Good process and good process alone drives good results. All right. Let me have to give you number 2, which is complexity. Like, how does all of this stuff work? Most of our clients do not understand how all of this stuff works. So we assume that they know all of this stuff works. And so you have to frame this well. So let me give you an example of how to frame this well. So there are 3 major agreements that govern a real estate transaction. Please, 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 you should understand this, okay? When you talk to a client, instead of essentially thinking that they're dumb, you have to frame the conversation with them. If you take nothing else away from us, please take this away. Every conversation, both on the listing side and the buy side, I would recommend that it starts with this conversation, which is, Mr. and Mrs. Client, there are 3 agreements that govern a real estate transaction. Can I walk you through it? What are they? Well, you know what they are. They don't, right? There's 3 agreements. The first thing, you take the listing agreement, put it on the table. This is a listing agreement. This is the agreement between the seller and the listing agent. And it's their responsibility to bring the home to market. Awesome. Here's a second agreement. Put it on the table. This is a buyer representation agreement. This is the agreement between you, the buyer, and me, the buyer agent. I help you get a home that you want, at a price that you want, at the terms that you want. Put the 3rd agreement on the table. This is the purchase agreement. This is the agreement between the buyer and the seller, and this is the thing that we're looking for. This is called the offer, and the offer is nothing but a terms of exchange. You have to do it visually, right? Because here's the reason. Because even in a listing appointment or in a buyer consult, you're going to bring back that agreement at the end for them to sign. If you just bring it back at the end for them to sign without walking through that agreement, they have what? Sales resistance, right? So you want to pre-frame the agreement because they know that it's a natural part of the transaction. So you're referencing everything related to that. And that's why this is important. Cool. So here's number 2. So if this works so far, give me a number 2 in the chat. So you're like, hey, I've got the first 2 things in place. Cool. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Here is number 3. All right. We're getting into the fun part. I got just a few more slides. Here's number 3, proof. There is a big reference in the marketplace that all agents make these grandiose claims about how they live their lives, right? Hey, every agent claims that they're number 1, they're the best, and then every other agent gets irritated. They slice the data differently, and every other agent gets mad. And now the consumer stop meeting with 3 people who all claim that they are the best. The way to do this is not about the promise, it is about the proof, right? You don't say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, when you list with us, we will do these 17 things. You don't say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, when you work with us, we do all of these things. That is promise. What you want is proof. Like if you're Gary Ashton, you're the number 1 RE/MAX office in the world. I think you have enough proof to show that, right? And you should show that. That is important, right? And if Gary can't show that, that is crazy. And you actually show that because that allows for a section of proof associated with that. So here's what this means. So for example, you don't have to do this, by the way. I'll give you an example of one of the slides that we use internally. This is called the visual stack. So a lot of times I tell our clients, hey, let me walk you through the difference between what we do and what 99% of other agents do. And the main reason for this is what you're seeing. Please don't say, hey, Sharon, can I get a copy of this slide? This doesn't matter. What you're seeing is a visual stack in this. And the visual stack says on one side, on the left-hand side of the page, this is what every agent does. You know what every agent does? And the buyer agent, when they actually meet with the buyer, you know what they do? They put their clients on the MLS strip. Right now, I'm on like 7 MLS strips because I talked to an agent. They do not care. So if all your value that you're offering to a client is the MLS strip, you are mistaken. You're going to get destroyed, right? So if you say, hey, the everyday agent does this, the top 5% agent does this, the top 1% agent does this, and we do this, and you're showing a comparison, that is insane. The visual stack of how much more you do is insane. And all you're saying is, hey, listen, let me stack it visually so that you start to believe the proof. And that's why this is important. So if you don't have some version of showing the stacking of you against others without actually putting their names to it and saying, hey, here's what they do, but here's what we do, it's a really powerful thing. Let me give you some examples. So this is my friend Trey Serrano, and he made this video, and I want to share this video and tell you why a video like this is important. This is on the buyer side, so watch this video.
If you know anybody who lives in the Bell Oaks neighborhood right by 46 in Blanco, this message is for you. I have a private client that's looking to purchase at least a 4-bedroom, 2,500 square feet. It has to be on an acre minimum. Budget is around $800,000 to $900,000, and I know that's not a lot of money for this kind of beautiful neighborhood. He's looking and open to a VA assumption, or he will buy a lot and build on it, and he's willing to pay around $220 to $230 a square foot. So if you know anybody who's looking to sell or an agent that has a market coming on the property, I'd love to message you and talk. We can hopefully make something work. Please help my client, Art and Sarah.
So if you notice what Trey did there, a lot of you are like, hey, okay, so if you liked a video like that and you think that's a good video, can you put TRE Trey in the chat? So I'd be like, hey, that's a good video. Trey did a good video related to that, right? You did a great job. Now, all of you are thinking, man, either you're thinking I can't do that video, or I don't have a video to do that, or if I did that, what would be the matter? But here's the crazy part. It is not about Trey making that video. The crazy part is Trey's going to take that video to his next appointment with his client, Drew. You know what Trey should do? Trey's going to be like, hey, Drew, when we work with our buyers, here's what we do. One of the things that we do is we make a personalized video to promote it, because this attracts, it's like a honeypot of attraction of new listings for us that are both on and off the market. Let me show you. And now, you know what Trey does in this case? He takes his phone and he shows it to the client. He's like, look, here's the video. Let me hit play. Let me show you. And now the client's like, wait a minute. Trey's not just telling me that he's going to make a video about me. Trey's showing me what he just did for the client. If he did that for a client, why wouldn't he do the same thing for us? That is the most important thing, because a lot of us think and use our marketing in the moment for those situations. We're like, oh, I'm going to drop this video. If it performs great, if it doesn't, no. No, you want to use every asset that you build as proof for the next appointment, because otherwise they don't know how you start to do. So always think, can I make this asset, and how do I get traction from it? How do I actually use it in the future? Because that shows proof. All right, keep going. I want to show you this. Some of you may be thinking, all right, well, Sharon, it's really interesting because I'm not good on camera. I don't want to be on camera. How do I do that? This is my friend Andrea Duane, and she's not even on camera on this video. She took a simple version of a just sold, because no one cares about your just sold, by the way. She takes, you care about your just sold, and no one else cares about your just sold, just so you know, right? She took a just sold and she made it a proof piece, not a brag piece, because a just sold is a look at me, what I did. I just sold this. That is what the client thinks. That is a brag piece. But instead, if you flip it to a proof piece, something very different happens. So watch this video.
To the heart, I never kissed a mouth that tastes like yours. Strawberries and something more. Oh yeah, I want it all. Lipstick on my guitar. Fill up the engine, we can drive real far.
So pretty amazing that Andrew was able to pull that off. It is all proof, right? It's like, we had this many showings, this many pieces, this many, we got this, we built that, we built this. It was all proof on what she did, all proof. And now she can do that. And then when she goes to the next appointment, you know what she does? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, when you list with us, we do like 27 things to market your property even before your property goes live. Let me show you. And then she can show proof. And that's why this is insanely appointment. Oh, can you not, my volume still okay? Okay, good. Okay, awesome. I will see if I can increase this. Give me 1 second. Make sure I'm good here so far. All right, maybe that's better. Okay, hopefully that's better. Cool. Thank you. Awesome. Good to get that. I was managing the volume on the slides as well as my talking, so thank you so much for the feedback. Here's my last one that I want to share with you. This is my friend Chris Kwan in Orange County, California. You saw Trey Serrano's video where his face is in there. You saw Andrew Duane's just proof video. Here is Chris Kwan's straight AI video. He's not even in it. He didn't even use an audio. He built this all on AI, and he's generated more buyers from this than any other video that he's made.
This is 14 Arizona in Irvine, and one of our clients just picked this up for $200,000 under the market value of the home. No, you heard me right. Not $200,000 over the market value, but $200,000 under the market value. How is this possible, especially in today's market? Well, there are deals out there today. You just have to look for them, and honestly, we love to find and negotiate them for you.
By the way, so good, right? And Chris has been able to use, I want to give you options on the things that you can do. That way you don't have any resistance to doing something, because you can use all of this as proof for the future. And that's the most important part. Here's a good example of proof. I know how many of you actually, when you have a buyer need, you do something with it. If you take a buyer need and you put it on social and you've done a post like this, can you just put a me in the chat? Just put a me in the chat if you've done a post like this. Cool. Like, look, the entire chat's lighting up. We have, almost 1,000 people saying yes on this video, on saying they've done that. But the crazy part is we have proof pieces like this, but we don't show it to our client. The entire job of what you should do is you should screenshot this and you should say, Mrs. Client, when we actually, are looking for homes for you, you have to find it and leave no stone unturned. Let me show you what we do with our social media following. And then you actually show this piece. You don't show it to them. When you show this to them, now they believe you. Show the piece, right? Same exact thing. You probably can't read this. Let me read it out to you. This was a text that I got. It says, hey, Sharon, we have 2 clients who need to sell their home to actually buy their next home. Here's home number 1. Here's home number 2. Do you have any active buyers? So they're sending me this, right? So what I do, many of you get stuff like this from your other agents in the marketplace, right? You are constantly having conversations. You should screenshot those conversations and show it to potential buyers. You should show it to potential sellers. The things that you don't show clients, they don't have any idea that you do. So you're like, I work hard for you. I have an agent network. They don't believe you. Right? Because they don't know, they don't understand it. So you have to show proof. This is my friend Chris Spiker in Delaware, Maryland, and in Virginia, mainly out of Maryland, but the entire DMV area. And I screenshotted this from Chris's Slack. Literally, you can't read this, but here's what Chris says, right? He says, Amy on Chris's team says, hey team, anyone looking for a home under 500K in Silver Spring, bring me a buyer selling for 440K. It's going live on February 15th, open to off-market showings. And she does all of this. Now, here's what Chris's team should do. They screenshot this Slack and then they take it to a client and say, look, here's an example of what we do. We're able to do more like this for you. You have to show proof on the things that you already do. We don't show proof, and that's why you can't validate the claims that we make. All right. Here's an example of a hustle. You probably can't read this. Essentially says, it says, hey, Jim, we have a family that's looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home in Laguna. It must be Laguna school zoning. They're open to buy or lease option. Do you have any pockets or listings? And then Jim turns around and says, yes, Sharon, we do. So now I'm hustling, and I want my clients to see that I'm hustling, because now if I screenshot this and showed it to my client, they're like, wait a minute, Sharon hustles for me. Otherwise, they don't know that you hustle for them because you don't show proof, right? I'm gonna flip through this. I want to show you this video by Jason Cassidy. It's one of my favorite ones. If you know Jason, you should send him a message that I actually did this. But I love this video by him, and I want you to hear the specificity in this video about how he finds a buyer. So listen to this one.
If you're seeing this message, it's on purpose. I have a buyer. Their names are Sean and Amanda, and they're looking for a detached home in the North County coastal area up to $2 million. They're pre-approved and just finishing up the process of selling their place in downtown. They're looking to move in the next 30 to 60 days. We've seen everything on the market, and we just haven't found anything that works. So if this sounds like a match for you, please reach out to me and let me know and see if we can put together something off market. So
if you notice, I want to show a couple things here. How he started the video was, if you're seeing this video, it's on purpose. That is called a dog whistle. Right? So if I'm scrolling through my feed and I say, if you're seeing this video, it's on purpose. I'm like, on purpose for what? I want to know what this is. So I start to see and start to feel what that is. I get into the video, right? And then if you notice, I'm talking with my clients, Sean and Amanda, right? He's showing very specifically what he's doing. He's very specific. Now Jason can take this video and he can take the video, and then on his next potential buyer, he can say, hey, look what I did for my clients, Sean and Amanda. It shows proof. Otherwise, they have no idea that you can actually do that thing. All right, I got the last 2 parts, and I'll turn back over to Drew. The process. There's very interesting about process, because good process and good process alone drives good results. And we need to explain to our clients that they are hiring us for our process. So when a client says to me, I'll give you an objection handler in a lot of ways, but when a client says to me, Sharon, tell me why we should hire you. Oh, you don't like, I deserve my commission. I deserve to be here. No one cares about any of that, because they don't care, right? I say, Mrs. Klein, you're not hiring me. You're actually hiring the process. Whoops, Is that, I'm sorry, that was not my screen. Can I get whoever, is that you, Drew? Okay, thank you. All right, that's why we get glitches. So a lot of times what I say is, Mr. Client, you're not really hiring me per se. What you're hiring is our process. Let me walk you through our process. Now they know that you detach whether they hire you, but they hire your process, and you can now talk about why your process is so much significantly better. A lot of it is when people know that they're hiring something that they can't design and get otherwise, that shows the overlay that only you can wield that process. So let me give you an example of how you actually position this, because you may be saying, hey, Sharon, how do I actually sell my process? So whether you use some version of this is our version of this, whether you use some version of this or not, it doesn't matter. But we say, hey, Mrs. Client, there are like 4 key phases to buying in the home journey, because we know that good process drives good results. Let me walk you through it. And you take them through the process. And then the main idea of this process is to show them this and make them realize that if they are not in your process, you are in their process. And their process is not well thought out, because they don't do this every day. Clients are really smart, but they just don't do this every day. That's why they need us. So you want to take the clients and give them the safety of your process. You don't want you to fall into their process. The more amicable you are and be like, you want to do things their way, it will break. But you want them in your process. So I'll give you an example of this process. So many years ago, this was actually, you can tell the date on the screen. July 18th, I did this, what I call the magic whiteboard. I did this for a listing appointment that we went on, 6 Gallery Place in Newport Coast at like $8.5–9 million. And I sent this picture to them. And I essentially was like, hey, super excited to like work with you on this process. And it shows them like the things that we're talking about, right? Send them screenshots saying excited to meet with you to talk about this. Now the client feels like, wait a minute, Sharon's already started working for me, which is super, super cool. And by the way, this trend has caught on because a lot of people are starting to do this. So this is my friend Kat. She's fantastic. She actually did this in such a janky way on the mirror in her hotel room. So it doesn't have to be fancy, right? The more casual it is, the more impact you get. We have random people in random companies getting random results. Like she says, Sharon, my husband sent me your video today and I decided to test it on a FSBO I've been nurturing. She sends this picture, and then the FSBO actually says, very clever, call me. Right? It's insane because you started to work for them. Show your process. This is my friend Alex Yu. Alex actually drew this on a piece of paper, put it on the ground, took a picture, and sent a text, which is crazy. And here the client says, hello, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Like a client's never said that to you. And that is all about the proof of the process, right? And this is where I want to get to this one, which is, this is my friend Christine Smith in Orlando. She is probably, by the way, if Christine's on, shout out to Christine, because Christine has personally taught me more about the buyer process than almost any other agent out there. She has been an amazing friend, advisor, and confidant. So super, super big kudos to Christine on this one. She knows this process inside out. Christine started using the magic whiteboard as the ability to actually frame it for buyers. So Christine says, hey, here, she's talking to Joey, and she's like, here's Joey's dream home. And now when Christine sends this as a text to her potential buyer before the meeting, the buyer's like, wait a minute, Christine's already working for me. Proof over promise, right? It shows them process. So simple to do, but it gets them into your process, because we think that, oh, I have to add value. What does having to add value mean? No one knows what that means. Or we have all these consumers selling us add value. And then on the other side, I recently I saw a piece from a coach that said, don't add value. Nobody cares about it. Your only job is to get the buyer rep agreement signed, because if not for that, you're a fool. Like, that's crazy. That is not how this process works. By the way, Drew and I will tell you that he is wrong. That is not how this works, right? That is terrible to think about it that way, because now you're treating every client as a potential commission check and not as your fiduciary responsibility to serve them in any way. So when Christine does something so special like this, it shows them that you're already working for them, which is insane. Here's my last section for you. One of the things that a buyer really wants is they're unsure of pricing. They're unsure of whether they're getting the right deal or not. And I will tell you, the most difficult thing with a potential buyer is this. All right, so let's say in this case, Monica is my buyer. Let's say I am the buyer agent, right? And I show Monica a home. And then we come out of the home, and you know what the average agent will say? So Monica, what'd you think? First, Drew will tell you, do not say that. Because what do you think? They instantly have this visceral reaction, and you give them no guidance on anything. Same with Lacey's video. She's like, if you have any questions, let me know. What does that say? Oh, I'm supposed to have any questions. It does not direct the scope of asking the right questions. So you don't want to say, what do you think? You want to make that process significantly better. You know what the client is thinking? They essentially want to see the home and they want a deal. So whatever the home is listed at, they want to offer under. There is nobody that walked into a home at that for $2.5 million and said, let's offer 4. Nobody said that. Right? And you need to understand that. And so, but the reason they say that is because every single buyer, all the time they want a deal. So we have to solve that thinking because they're disconnected from reality. So let me explain to you how you solve that thinking overall. And this alone is probably worth the price of admission today. And so we have to let people understand that pricing is about understanding why the market works the way it does. Because when you do, it's really easy to read the tea leaves. So let me explain. When you're in a listing appointment, right, here's probably what you're doing. You're talking to a client about pricing and you're saying this. You're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Client, when we work with our sellers about listing a home, we choose to employ one of 3 different pricing strategies. Is it okay if I walk you through them? Did you see the change in my tonality? Right now I'm in a teaching advisor mode. Now you say, well, there's 3 ways to kind of think about pricing. Number 1, we call this aspirational pricing, where we actually price the property above market because pricing is just about positioning and the list price is an invitation. When we price above the market, we generally price it for 2 important reasons. Reason number 1 is because the property is unique, or reason number 2, there's a celebrity factor. So in our case, we don't have that. Did you notice what I did? I shut down the aspirational pricing right away. Then I said, the second way of pricing is what we call perceived market value pricing. Some people call it fair market value, which is actually wrong. What am I doing? I'm telling them the average agent is wrong. You want perceived market value pricing because it shows you where the market is, the momentum of the market is at. And the more you price there, the more you get a more fair set of offers and inquiries. Or the third part is you can price a little bit under the market. We call that event-based pricing, where you price under the momentum of the market that gives you room to actually drive a pricing up in an auction-like environment. Given that we don't have to worry about aspirational pricing, which of these other 2 strategies are connecting with you? So that's what I would tell a potential seller. Right? And you need to be able to explain it the same way. Now, the crazy part is you have to explain the same thing to a buyer. Please, 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 if you were not paying attention, this is my last point. Please pay attention right now. Before you start showing homes to a buyer, here's what you do. You say to a buyer, so if Monica is my buyer, I say, Miss Monica, here's what's going to happen. When we are working with sellers to list property, sellers generally think about pricing in 3 ways. They think about pricing in either aspirational, blah, 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 or perceived market value, blah, 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 or event, blah, 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 right? This is how it works. When we're going to tour the home, and I want to make sure that we have a game plan overall. Game plan is number 1, stick with me through this process as we tour the home. Number 2, let's not discuss anything confidential inside the home because there may be cameras, etc. And number 3, when we walk out of this appointment, I'm going to ask you one question. And that question is this: what pricing strategy do you believe that they used? Okay, I'm telling you right now, if you take nothing else away, take this away. Because here's what's going to happen. Monica's going to go in the appointment and into the showing. She's going to walk around the house. She's going to feel whether she likes it, she doesn't like it, whether she wants to change the paint color, whether she wants to change. She's going to think about all of those things. But none of those matter because I've already pre-framed that when she walks out of the appointment, I'm going to ask her one question, right? What pricing strategy do you believe that the sellers are using right now? So Monica's going to walk out and be like, I believe the sellers are using event pricing. So Monica knows that she's telling me that the sellers are actively pricing under market to create an auction-like environment. So I know and she knows that she can't offer under, right? Because otherwise you're fighting with your buyer without them having an understanding of the momentum of pricing. That is the most important thing. If you don't do that, you're just like every other average agent who's going to get crushed in the marketplace because the buyer is going to say, well, Drew's advocating for me to pay more. Instead, you want the buyer to understand which one of the pricing strategies are being used so that you can respond and negotiate thoughtfully. If you just did this one thing, it will change the nature of your partnership with your buyers while they're actually looking for homes. All right, so if all of that sounded okay so far, just give me a P for pricing in the chat. Just give me a P for pricing. That way I know that you got it overall. All right, here's my last slide, so which is this. So we talked about 5, oops, sorry about that. We talked about 5 important things. Number 1, we talked about the silver bullet. There is no silver bullet because good process and good process alone drives good results. Number 2, we talked about the complexity of the process. No, there's a bunch of questions that need to be answered. So know and design your presentation based on those questions. Number 3, proof. It's not about promising that you're the best. It's about showing proof that you're really good. Number 4 is process. If you don't have them in your process, they will put you in their process. And I will tell you that their process is worse than your process. And so you will not get the result that you want. And last but not least, pricing. Pricing is about positioning. Oops, and the list price is just an invitation. I don't know what happened on the board here, so hopefully that can be taken down. Thank you. All right, cool. So hopefully that was helpful to all of you. Drew and I wanted to kind of give you a sneak peek at that. By the way, if you are at Real, just FYI, if you go to Real Academy, and we have the seller toolkit and the buyer toolkit all broken out. And what I'm sharing today is there's a frame by frame, step by step, both language pattern and video and talking points already broken out in all of this for you, including all the NAR based decoupling of compensation and how to present commission, et cetera, to clients. All of those are already pre-built and waiting for you in Real Academy. So if you would like that, it's already there live. So you can go tackle that whenever you want. But wanted to make sure that you got the high level pieces of how this process works overall. So super grateful to, hopefully that was helpful for you. We'll make sure we share this stuff with you guys. But I'll turn it back over to my main man, Drew.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Do me a favor. If that was helpful for all of you, can you just drop a Sharon in the chat? Can you just put the word Sharon in the chat for me if that was helpful? There we go. Awesome. And guys, hey, stick around. For those of us that joined us a little late, stick around to the end because we've got a bonus gift for you. It's a tactic that I use to close over $200,000 in GCI in my second year in the business. I think you guys are going to love it. But you noticed something about Sharon, right? And myself and a lot of the people on this call. Terry, what's up? I see you there, by the way. Listen, you can say these things because you're confident in the process, because you're centered. Sharon said, this is not transactional. Like someone who said, don't explain your value. Are you kidding? That's the whole thing you have to do, explain your value. If I went to an accountant or I went to a lawyer, if I went to a heart surgeon and he didn't explain his value, dude, I'm walking out. That's not the way we do this. You have to explain your value. And he starts from a place of guys, listen in, of being okay with what the story that we tell ourselves. The story that we tell ourselves will come through when you're talking to agents. Now, hold on, because I'm going to go a little bit fast through all of this because Sharon's going to jump back on for frameworks to handle objections. And then we're going to kind of just do a little role play back and forth and give you a taste of what we're going to be doing over the next week. But we have to understand that story that we tell ourselves. We have to understand that, well, let's look at this. This is what's coming up when consumers start searching about what's going on with agents. New ruling could be the end of realtor commissions. Guys, this is 100% not the case. What about this next one? Can you guys see my screen here? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. A little glitch there. The thing is, these headlines are doing way more to terrify than they are to clarify. Way more to terrify than to clarify. You have to get super clear, guys, super clear on the story that you tell yourself and the story that you tell your clients. I think these are two things, but the story that you tell yourself is the most important part, right? Right now, we're thinking you're either hopeful, skillful, or resentful, right? Sharon said this yesterday. If you could do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat if you joined us yesterday for the Real Buyer Playbook, for the future-proofing your buyer. There we go. So you understand, and I hope that everyone on this call is skillful, because if you're skillful, you're going to realize that right now, all this is doing for us, it is providing increased transparency, and it is a huge opportunity for you to demonstrate your value. Hear that again, demonstrate your value. Everything Sharon just said, walking through a game plan, talking about which pricing strategy they're using, that's value. 90% of the agents are not doing that. When you do that, you differentiate yourself. That's going to level the playing field. 100% level the playing field for you to shine. Now, when we go to talk to our clients, this is where I said clients, SOI, and friends and family. You have to be able to have the conversation about what this means for them, right? What's in it for them? And when you look at that, commissions have always been negotiable, right? Right. I'm looking here in the chat here. I see you, Terry, shake your head. Commissions have always been negotiable. Christian, what's going on, man? They're always negotiable. And here's the other thing. If I'm talking to a seller, incentives sell. And we're going to have a conversation about that and how to use that in your listing presentation next week. But here's the other part, is that you get to talk to them a little bit about being their fiduciary. You get to create that trust. Trust is the key frame here. What I want to do, this is a true story, if I can share this with you. Can you see the picture there? Might not be coming up. No, little glitch. Okay, no worries. I had a real picture there to show you guys, and that picture was literally me at the dentist last week. I am terrified of the dentist. No lie, when I was a kid, I wouldn't open my mouth, Terry, and the dentist threatened to drill through my cheek. And ever since then, I am absolutely terrified. But I went to this new dentist, and when I walked in, he said to me, he looked at me, and you could tell I was just like a little clammy and a little nervous. He said to me, he goes, "Hey, Drew, thanks for coming in, man. I just want to walk through what we're going to do today. By the way, hey, I love the Buckeyes because I was wearing an Ohio State t-shirt. We all should love the Bucks." He goes, "Love the Bucks. They're going to win this year. First thing we're going to do, we're just going to take some x-rays. I want to make sure everything's happening and going in right. Second thing, I want to go over all of the problem, the little toothache you said you had. OH, Carolyn, I see you. And then to finish up, I'm going to tell you what the treatment plan will be." And at that moment, like I could literally feel my shoulders go from here to, like how cool is that? He established rapport, right? And he told me what was going to happen. He told me what was going to happen. He told me everything that I needed to know to just go, oh, all right, this is cool. I know what's going to happen. I want you to be able to do the same thing. One thing I want to teach you guys today and show you is the communication hacks to build instant trust and rapport. Now, to do that, there's 3 parts to this: spot, share, and strengthen, a moral contract, and looping. Spot, share, strengthen, a moral contract, and looping. What do I mean by spot, share, strengthen? Okay, imagine like this guy, when he met me, the dentist, when he met me, he spotted something that we had in common. Ohio State, the Bucks. Cool. Instantly, he said to me, "Hey, go Bucks, man." Like, that's awesome. Cool. Now we're friends. We have rapport. So what I want you to do right now is when you go out to meet a buyer, right? Like if I'm hanging out with Sharon, if Sharon's my buyer, be like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, look, we have the same shirt on." That's so cool, man. It's a cool company I work for, man. I'm glad that we can relate. I notice something, I spot it, I share it with them, acknowledging what I'm seeing, and then I'm strengthening the connection between us by saying, "Hey, we have this in common," right? Here's how that sounds, right? Let's say you go out, "Mike, man, it's great to meet you, dude. Hey, I love those Oakley sunglasses. I have the same ones. My wife got them for me last year, man. Nice find." Now, guys, this is how I talk. But if you notice, there's some things in here that we can talk about for a while. Sharon and I probably go over this. I'm giving you conversational hooks, right? I'm starting a conversation. "Mike, great to meet you, dude. I love those sunglasses. I have the same ones. My wife got them for me." "Oh, your wife got them for you last year? That's so cool." I'm like, "Nice find, man." I'm getting into conversation. So that's step 1 here. I'm going a little fast here, and I want to do what Sharon did because I want to see. Guys, give me a number 1 if you guys are okay with this. Are we on the same page? Are we on the same? Yeah? All right, Chris, rock and roll. So if I've done that first part, right? The first part is building a relationship right off the bat. That next part here is a moral contract. What is a moral contract? This is an agreement between you and another person, and you do not want to break this agreement. It's creating clear expectations. You got to remember, when someone comes to us as a real estate agent, guys, they think we are used car salesmen, right? That's like when I see an agent show up, and he's literally wearing a name badge. I just want to take it, throw it off, throw it in the ground, and stomp on it. So anyone that's on this call right now, you do not have to wear a name badge. Please, you are not selling used cars. We have to act like it. If you want to wear something like a name badge, go into our store, right? And get something that says real on it, or get something that says your brokerage or your brand on it. That will do far more to start conversations than anything else. We have this moral contract that is going to reduce the anxiety. Remember, anxiety equals stress, sales resistance, okay? And Terry is punching the air right now. Terry, it's okay. It's okay, Terry, if you wear your name badge. It's okay. I'm going to send you a real vest so you can wear that too. Here's how we do this moral contract. I'm going to frame this like this. There is the setup, the delivery, and then the payoff. The setup, delivery, payoff. Here's the setup. The setup is like this. "Hey, Monica, great to see you. You're back from the islands. What's going on? Hey, thanks for taking time with me today. To make the most out of our time together, I'd like to go over a few things that we'll cover. Is that okay with you?" You see, I'm getting into rapport with each other. And what's Monica going to say? She's going to say, "Sure. Awesome. Yeah, cool. I got my first agreement. I've got my first agreement. Cool." Now, the neuroscience behind this, if I get that first agreement, I'm like, "Yeah, cool. I've already got my first yes from a sales perspective. Got my first yes. Let's keep going." Okay, so that's the setup. The next part is for you to deliver the contract and to tell them what they're going to do while they hang out with you, while they spend time with you. And I believe it has 3 parts. And this is important, guys. If you haven't followed anything I'm saying, this is possibly one of the most important parts. About you, it has to be about me second, and then our next steps. So you structure this moral contract like this. You, me, next steps. You, me, next steps. And here's the delivery on that. So here's the you part. So Monica, first, I'd love to hear more about your ideal home buying process. What are you hoping for? What concerns you have? Like what your ideal home looks like? And what's one thing you love about where you live right now? Why do I ask that last question? Like, why do I ask the last question? What's one thing you love about where you live right now? Well, because once they start telling me that, the answer, I'm going to know more about them. Again, they're going to give me conversational hooks for me to remember that then I can start pointing out as we're walking through homes in the future. And I can remember as I'm showing them homes in the future, I could say, oh, Monica, you remember you told me the fact that where you're living right now, the apartment has those quartzite countertops with the waterfall island and you loved that? This house has the same thing. And I think you are totally going to love it. That's the you part. Okay. The second part is the delivery. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say, hey, next, Monica, I want to explain a little bit about my job as your fiduciary. I'm going to walk you through.
Hey, Drew, just one second. I think you've got your full screen shared and not just the window. And so it was showing other windows and just
got it. Thank you, sir. We all good now? Monica, give me a head shake.
Yes.
Yes? Good. Thanks, Sharon. Okay, so the next part here, the delivery. Hey, next, Monica, I want to explain a little bit about my job as your fiduciary. I'm going to walk you through everything I'll be doing on your behalf, including the state forms that need to be filled out and what it's going to look like as we move forward through this home purchasing process. If you notice what I did there, I didn't jump out, Monica, and say, hey, I'm going to tell you about the forms you have to sign for me to represent you. Instead, what I did was I just said, listen, I'm going to tell you about my job as your fiduciary. It's my job to care about you and guide you through this process. Number 2, I'm going to tell you everything we're going to be doing, including the state forms. Then I'm going to walk you through and tell you what this process is like. Do you see how I'm giving you insight and details and clarity of everything that we're going to be doing? And Tony, you're absolutely right. That is a form of anchoring. That's exactly what we're doing. The last part here is the payoff. The payoff, this is where we're going to talk about the homes we're going to go see. And it would sound like this. Hey, Monica. And lastly, the third part, this is one of my favorite parts, is we're going to talk about the homes that you're interested in. And then we're going to go see them. We're going to talk about the pluses, the minuses, and discover if these homes are a fit for you and what we're looking for. We're going to go out and tour them after that. And I'm going to ask you this. Hey, does that sound good to you? Or how's that resonate with you? I'm going to check the temperature. You're going to say, wow, Drew, that sounds great. Let's get going. Do you see what we've done here? We've given them a moral contract about you, about me, and about the next steps. Okay. And now, guys, this is possibly the most important part of this entire communication hacks to be able to create rapport and connection. And it's something called looping for understanding. Looping for understanding goes something like this. Anytime someone gives you information, like they tell you, your client says, I love the quartzite countertops in where I'm living right now. Your job is to repeat to them what they just told you in your own words. It shows that you understand. And we do this by using a couple phrases. You can say, hey, just so I understand you correctly, or hey, this is my favorite one to use. Hey, I just want to make sure I'm in the right sandbox here. I've got 3 little kids, right? 4, 3, and 11 months. We spend a lot of time playing in the sandboxes together. Hey, I want to make sure I'm in the right sandbox here. It sounds like you love the updated kitchen with the quartzite countertops. You love the Wolf appliances because you're able to cook meals faster for your kids in the mornings. Did I hear that correctly? And what you, as the client, you're going to say, yeah, Drew, that totally works. It shows active listening. It shows that you are engaged. Hear this really loud and clear. We're not transactional. We're your fiduciary. It's my job, right? People love shopping with friends. They don't like being sold to. This is creating rapport. And now, in order to handle the possible objections that are going to possibly come up, Sharon, can I bring you back out here to talk about handling objection frameworks? Is that cool?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Drew. Maybe I can just frame it and we can go through your notes, Drew. That may be super helpful. So let's actually, I'll frame this so we can just have me spotlight it if you like. So there's two big pieces of whenever you think about an objection. How many of you get objections? Just put a me in the chat. If you get objections, just put a me in the chat. Okay, so we all do. So think about it this way, right? The best way to handle an objection is to think about it before you get it, because you don't want to be put in a tight spot and then says, oh, how do I handle this, right? So just know that you're going to get objections. And let me reframe an objection for you. An objection is just an unanswered question. Right? That's all it is. It's an unanswered question in their mind. They just don't know how to solve something. So when someone says, like, I need to think about it, they just are uncertain. And so they're using the smoke screen of, I need to think about it. And what do they need to think about? Maybe they're just analytical, but they're just not, they don't have certainty, right? So an objection is just an unanswered question. Now, most importantly, I will tell you this, 8 out of 10 times, objections happen because they're triggered. Okay, so nobody says, oh, Drew, I was talking to Jimmy and he said he would do it for 1%. Nobody says that in an objection. That never happens. Nobody delivers you a gentle, thought out, articulate objection. Because if they had the time to think about that and frame it, they've already thought through the potential answer around it. Most people will, 8 out of 10 times, will drop a triggered objection. So they'll say, what do you mean 6%? Jimmy said he'd do it for 1%. That's how they will talk about it. And that's because they have this disconnect in optics and they don't know how to actually answer it. So it's our job to help them answer it. So whenever you think about objections, please, please, please remember these 2 words: de-escalate and reframe, right? De-escalate and reframe. So when someone is asking and has an objection, there's a question behind the question. And so when someone says, well, Jimmy will do it for 1%, the question is not, Jimmy will do it for 1%, will you drop your commission? That's what we think. So instantly we go to a commission handling objection. That is not a commission handling objection. You have no idea why Jimmy said he would do it for 1%. You have no idea whether he said he would do it for 1% on the buy side and 92% on the list side. You have no idea what Jimmy said, right? There's always a question behind the question. So the first thing we do is we de-escalate to get them to neutral so they don't drive sales resistance. And then you reframe to a completely different path. So let me give you an example. So for example, if Drew said, well, you know what, Sharon, 6%, this is crazy. Jimmy said he'd do it for 1%. So Drew's triggered. So my job is to de-escalate and then reframe. So how do I de-escalate? There's 2 simple ways to de-escalate. You use tonality to de-escalate, and you use language to de-escalate. And if you do both, you win. So for example, I would say, how do you mean 1%? Did you see what I did? I just said, how do you mean 1%? Now, by the way, I don't stutter. Okay? Like, I have a friend that stutters. I don't, like, he's a super cool dude, but like, I don't stutter. But I said, how do you mean 1%? So now I put the burden of articulation back on the client, right? Because now they have to go into a logical frame to de-escalate and explain to me why Jimmy said he would do it for 1%. Okay, so then Drew's going to say, well, Sharon, like, and he's going to calm down. He's going to de-escalate. And he's going to say, well, I was talking to Jimmy and he's been a friend for a while. He's giving me info. Jimmy's a friend. And, I think he sells homes in Lake Tahoe, but I'm in Laguna. He's like, oh, yeah. But he told me that, it's just putting it on the MLS would just be the easiest thing to do and we can sell it. And I go, huh. So now I know he's de-escalated and he's actively shown me why an out-of-area agent who's never sold a home in Laguna just thinks that putting it on the MLS will get him the result that he wants. Now I have enough ammo to articulate and respond. So now I say, oh yeah, I think I understand. So let me see if I can paint this picture. Please tell me if I'm right. You've been talking to your friend, Jimmy, who sells real estate in Lake Tahoe. And he believes that if we put the home on the market, just on the MLS, we'll get all the buyers, and that process. Is that right? And so now I'm just kind of getting. They'll say, yeah. I go, I think actually that's good advice from a friend. However, can I walk you through the kind of nuanced mechanics of how real estate works here in Orange County? Because even I, having done this for the last 15 years, I don't sell real estate outside of Orange County because this is so complex. There's 3 things that most people don't know that will actually break down in this process. Can I share what those 3 things are? What did you see? What I did? I took the commission-based 1% objection, turned it into a everyday agent can't sell what I do, and then show them the important thing that I know, that I am the local area expert, and if they don't work with me, they have a significant safety gap. Now, that's just one example of it, but what I did was I de-escalated and then I reframed. So if you get an objection, the job is not to handle the objection. And the job is definitely not to say, oh yeah, I can appreciate that. So for example, the crusty old consulting folks and the talking heads of the industry, their script books say something like this. By the way, go look it up and it says something exactly like this. It says something like where it says, oh, well, you know what, Sharon, Jimmy said he would do it for 1%. And the script book goes exactly like this. Oh yeah, Drew, I can appreciate that. No, you cannot appreciate that. You are lying. You're being disingenuous. Like, do you really appreciate that Jimmy can do it for 1%? You do not. So don't say that. Next time your favorite guru on stage says, oh yeah, I can appreciate that, they are lying. They have lost their linguistic dominance. They have no language patterns that supports that, because what you're doing is you're being deeply disingenuous, because that is not the answer. That is not the way to get them to de-escalate. You use de-escalation by getting them to get back into logic and showing them gap and using tonality to calm down their triggerness. That's why you say, oh, how do you mean 1%? Or I'm sorry, I don't quite understand. Would you be able to say that a little differently so I can understand it better? What am I doing? Reduce stress, reduce triggering so I can get to neutral, and then I can reframe. Most important thing about handling objections is not memorizing a script. It is getting them to de-escalate first, because then you can have a normal conversation with them. And once you're ready for the conversation, you find the question behind the question and you reframe it to that question. Because the fact that the reason they are giving us objections, which are unanswered questions, is because they don't do this day to day. So they don't know how to frame this. They don't know how to think about this. They don't know what is important. So we have to help them frame it better. It is our job to do that, because an objection is an unanswered question. I want to get them to trigger less, get them to neutral, have them in a good state so that I can then turn them into asking the right question that is good for them. I'm not manipulating. You manipulate, you bad. Like, don't do that, right? That's not English, but you bad. You don't manipulate, right? You want to de-escalate and you want to reframe. So here's the, before I turn back over to Drew, Steve talked about a couple of interesting things. Tell me more about that. You will get significant sales resistance from a high D. So if you tell me more about that, you know what I will tell you? I will tell you to go pound sand, because I don't need to tell you jack squat. I am a high D. I'm faster, better, sharper, stronger, everything better than you, right? That's how my brain works. Now, I am not. Clearly, I'm not. I'm a nobody and I like the Anaheim Ducks. I am not, right? But the most important thing in all of this is high Ds do not like tell me more about that. Because tell me more about that is you're forcing them to give you a open-ended life story that they can't do. You know what you should say? Hey, could you walk me through exactly what you don't like about that 1%? You want to be specific with how you so they can answer the question directly. So tell me more about that is I would offer to you in an objection handling situation, you should not use, because what it does, it doesn't help you reframe. In overall conversation, when you're in discussion and they are neutral and they ask you a question, you're like, you can say, how do you mean? Or can you explain like why you want to be in Scottsdale by this time? Hey, or what is actually driving this decision? Totally cool. But just read the personality well, because in an objection handling way, tell me more about that will actually cause more pain, even though it's a good language pattern to use. So be ultra careful about tell me more about that, because if you told it to me, you may get a finger from me, because I do not care about you. And most of the people making decisions, they're already like, I want to make these decisions fast. So do not trigger people. You have to de-escalate and then reframe. All right, no, I'm dead serious. This is why we lose, because we have personality mismatch on how we talk about these things, and we don't de-escalate, and we just say, oh yeah, I can appreciate that. I'm still escalated. I have not broken down that thing, so you have to de-escalate me. So please remember these two words. I would love for you to put them in the chat so you don't forget. When you get an objection, de-escalate and reframe. Could you just do that for me in the chat? De-escalate and reframe. De-escalate and reframe. Could you put that in the chat? De-escalate and reframe. That way you know that first thing you de-escalate, reduce sales resistance, then you actually reframe this entire process. All right? Yeah. It will not work with your spouse and partners. I've already tried that, because my wife is like, oh yeah, you're talking softly so that you're de-escalating me. I'm gonna punch you in the face, is what my wife will tell me, right? And she knows. I'm like, honey, how do you mean you need me to pick up the kids? I need you to pick up the kids. Like, it's not, it's very clear, right? So You can't use it with, you got to be careful who you use it. But anyway, be cool, de-escalate, and reframe. I'll turn it back over to Drew.
That's so good, man. My wife hears me listen to like your podcast and like other Audible books, and she goes, "Don't use that stuff on me," right? And then I'll do a mirror on you.
It's
But
good.
you know, hey,
De-escalation.
try to de-escalate. Sharon, I just got thinking as you're talking, if I'm going to go out in the field and I have to de-escalate and reframe, I know I've got to get my reps in beforehand. So who could be the hardest person ever to de-escalate and reframe? My daughter. She's 3. And every day I practice this de-escalation and reframing. I don't want to go to bed. I want to watch a movie. Well, honey, don't you want to get big and strong? Right?
So good.
So if you practice on your kids, think about how much more confident you feel to go out in the field, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just
So,
looking.
Drew, I'll say one thing, and then I'll turn it back over to you. So when you are thinking about, a lot of people are going to be like, "Hey, what does reframing mean?" I think there was a couple of refrain. You're not refraining from anything. You're reframing the conversation. So you're asking a new question. Please know this: we should not handle an objection unless we know exactly what the objection is. Okay. That means you clarify until you understand exactly what the objection is. So do not assume that, hey, Jimmy said he'd do it for 1%. Do not assume that it's a commission objection. Because as soon as you hear Jimmy said he'd do it for 1%, you instantly think it's a commission objection. It is not a commission. You have no idea. You don't know for sure that it's a commission objection, which is why you say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know, 1%, how do you mean? Now you want to tell them that, hey, he's an out-of-area agent. He thinks he can do it for 1% because there's no work involved. Now you know it's not a commission objection. It is a lack of knowledge of how the process works objection. So now you reframe it to that. So as soon as you hear something, it's a pricing objection. Oh, we don't know if you believe in our property. That is not a pricing objection. You don't know what it is. So our job is to de-escalate and then ensure and reframe it. And we have to ask the question, be like, what is going on here, so that you can handle the right objection. Because if you don't handle the right objection, it becomes a smoke screen for more objections. And then you just go down the spiral that you can never get out of. So do not handle an objection unless you know exactly what the objection is, because then it's much easier to solve the objection in conversation. So de-escalate and reframe. Drew, I'll turn it back over to you.
Cool, man. I love all of that. So here's what I want to do for the guys, everyone that is stuck around, which is pretty much everybody here. We've got a bonus for you. I told you that we would deliver this, and I think you are going to love it. Do me a favor. If you took a lot of nuggets from this, if this was beneficial for you, can you just put a yes in the chat for me? If this is beneficial, drop a yes in the chat for me. Awesome. Jesse Peters, I see you. And yes, this will be inside Real Academy, so you can get the recording. So here's the bonus for you. Can you see, not my whole screen, but you do see what I'm sharing? Yeah? I'm just going to make sure again.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Okay. Here's the bonus. When I was producing, right, I sold for 4 years here right outside New York City. And I became a specialist at drinking coffee. But what if I told you that there's one small trick, guys, no smoke screen, one small trick that ended up getting me, for the price of 347 coffees, which cost me about $3,500 over the course of 11 months, got me 8 listings and 3 buyers and $200,000 GCI. Is this pretty bonkers? If this sounds good to you and you would drink 347 coffees over the course of a couple months, put the word coffee in the chat for me, because I'm going to show you how to do this. It's going to blow your mind. Okay. I love it. I love the energy coming from the chat. All right. So here's the story. I have 3 kids, ages 4, 3, and 11 months. When my first son was born, my first son was born, I was terrified. I had no idea what to do. It was during the pandemic, and I really didn't have other dads to talk to because we were all quarantined, right? We couldn't go anywhere. So I'm sitting in my basement with my wife, and I said, hey, I just want to see if this is going to work. I'm going to just jump on the Facebook group for our local town in Westfield, New Jersey. I'm going to jump on the Facebook group, and I am going to just put out a message saying, hey, I want to meet people for coffee. And then I want to see if anyone, chimes in and says they want to join. Let me show you the message that I put out, because it's so good. And guys, just read this. This message came from a place of complete transparency and a complete want to just meet people. I said, hey, fellow Westfield people, Westfieldians, I miss interacting with you, so I want to meet you for coffee, my treat. One of my goals is to take 1,000 people for coffee at a local Westfield business. Okay, I started this last week, and I've got to meet a whole bunch of people. So, side note, I'm going to be a father of 2 and my wife is expecting another child. So I really need recommendations. You see this strategic vulnerability. I'm telling people what's going on in my life. Can we just, I wish I could zoom in here. Can you all see this? 145 comments. I did this, posted it and went to bed. I woke up the next morning to over 423 messages in my inbox. Everyone saying, hey, let's go out. Meet me for coffee. Meet me for coffee. I was like, wow, like this is working. So much so that the news picked it up. So much so that the New York City news picked it up. And then every single week, I would go back and I would leave highlights of who I've met. And I would facilitate introductions to everybody. So guys, you see, I'm creating community. And in creating community, people want to be introduced. They want to be my friends. People would meet me for coffee and they would start like this. Like, David, if you were meeting me, David, you'd be like, hey, Drew, I am not going to buy a house from you. I want you to know that right now. Be like, hey, cool, David. I just want to talk to you and get to know you. You got to think differently. And that's what's going to get you relationships that turn into clients for life. Guys, we are at 1:10. Thank you so much for jamming with us 10 minutes past the hour. Again, if this is beneficial for you, drop a 1 in the chat for me real quick. So many ones. This recording will be inside Real Academy. Next week, we are going to be doing role plays like this, and we're going to tactically implement everything you heard Sharon and I talk about today. All right. Thank you again for jiving with us, and I'll talk to you soon. See you guys.